So at first I didn't think there was enough material to deliver a whole video on this, but the more I've thought about it, and as I was just doing the other wheel, I thought it'd be a good idea to do a part 2 on the video from last week on tires. So as you can see, I just finished this wheel. If you'll notice, the bottom of it, I'm putting a lot of pressure down there, and on the bottom of that wheel, normally, prior to doing this, you would see that bubble with this amount of pressure on this wheel, but because I've just aired it up, it's got plenty of air, so it's not providing that bubble. So that's how you tell that this tire is sufficiently aired up. The other main way you can tell is if the reading that you're getting on your tire pump is telling you that the pressure is within range as far as what that tire is supposed to hold. They're specifically the tube. So here we have the other wheel, and as you can see, it's a little difficult to tell because it's not very stable, but my hand, when I'm applying pressure, I can sort of bend the tire. In fact, you can sort of see it a little better there, I suppose. I'm essentially creating a bubble because of the lack of air. In addition, if I really push down on it, I'm sure you can quite see that. Let me try to zoom in a little. Right about there. Again, it's pretty small, but there's a bubble that forms at the bottom there. So like I said in last week's video, that's how you tell that it is not sufficiently aired up. One quick thing before I forget, I am not sponsored by Carson or the folks that make this this air compressor here. It's just the one that I use. There are plenty out there that work just as well. Again, the key factor is just making sure that you're using enough air to get your tire filled. If in some cases you might be fine with a hand compressor. These wheels are take way too much air for that to happen, but maybe it'll work in your case. Just keep an eye on how much pressure your tires need and make sure that you get something that can handle that. Now this is the device we'll be using in order to fix this problem. So this is called a Carson portable air compressor. That's the model number, voltage, all of that jazz. And essentially it's got this wire that, like I said before, goes into my car right there. So again, like I said, this is intended for cars, specifically when it's when that car runs into a flat and you need to air up the tire, like it's leaking or something like that. Maybe it's airing up a spare when you need to use a spare. So I've already got my car turned on, it's ready to go, and of course it's already plugged in. Like I said, this is actually the second tire. It occurred to me after doing it, I was like, yeah, there's a fair bit of material here and I should probably talk about it. So the first step, once you're ready to air up your tire, is finding this little doohickey right here. That is the intake valve for the tire itself. A couple other things before I go straight into it. One, this cap here, sometimes you're going to lose that cap. That is not a problem, because inside of there is a little mechanism that you push in order to remove air from the tire. So in other words, it's got its sort of own safety cap in there so that you're not going to just leak, provided it's not broken. This right here is just to protect that interior cap, so the air really shouldn't escape. If you lose that cap, not a huge deal. And if you do and you're really worried about it, I'm not sure that I would advise this, but I will say, for those of you that prefer this over your tire, your car tire for some reason, car tires have this same cap. I'm pretty sure this one, I think I experimented, and this one is the one from, if not this car tire, then a different one. So, fun fact. This is that cap that I was talking about earlier. So as you can see, there's a sort of inner point right in the middle there, and you push that in order to get air in and out. So you might be wondering why you'd ever want to take air out. Well, when the tire starts to degrade, like we were talking about last week, and like I said, this tire is definitely on its way out, maybe a little life left in it, but definitely on its way out. You want to push that little pin in the middle in so that the air comes out, so you can get this tire off and replace it with a different one. Now this right here is probably the trickiest part, and I'm probably not going to be able to show you on camera because I'll need one hand to hold this input mechanism in, and the other to hold the wheel still, and then of course flip this guy back. But basically, if you've ever aired up a car tire or a bike tire or anything like that, same principle here. Basically, right now it's in the open position. You lock it in place, and essentially what that does is stop air from going anywhere else except through that hole right in the middle. So the way this works is you've got it in the open position, you stick it into that point right there, you lock it in place like so, and then you hit the go button on your compressor. So I'm going to try to videotape this, but basically when I push this in, yeah, there's a bit of air that comes out of it because that is essentially pushing in that pin so that it can push in more air than comes out. Now, so when that happens, that's a good sign. That means you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So here's the deal. We're gonna push it in, we're gonna lock it in place, and then I will show you what to do next. So now it's locked in place. Like I said earlier, we had that hiss, air came out. Now it should be really easy to see because there wasn't much air to begin with. Now there's even less, so you can definitely see how it's moving around really freely. And again, that's great if you want to take off the wheel or off the tire. Not really what we want to do here. So I've got that in place. Now we come back to this guy, and here's the thing. I've used this enough, so I've already set it to where we want it to go. Namely, I stop it, like I said, the range here is about 80 to 120, maybe 80 to 100. So I normally take it to about 90 PSI. And then here's the thing. I can't really show this to you because it goes way too fast, but basically you disengage that nozzle there once you reach your intended pressure, and then pull it, and then turn this off. Now the reason you do that is because that's still pushing some air in, but technically speaking, once you unlock it, you want to get it out as quickly as you can, because essentially what that locking mechanism does is keep all of the air moving into the tire. And when you unlock it, air can also escape. So when you pump air, it will also knock some of that air out, meaning that even if you're pushing air in, more is going to come out than it's ever going to go into that tire, because it's a much more pressurized environment. So you want to handle this as quickly as you can. If you're really worried about it, you could try increasing the pressure, so that you essentially give yourself more time, so that you end at the same pressure as you would like to. Again, be very careful with that, because you do not want to go higher up on that pressure, such that you'll pop your own tire while you're doing that. Again, this isn't super risky. It's relatively intuitive, especially once you get the hang of it. But if you're worried about it, definitely get someone to help you. So like I said, this thing is ready to go. It's already programmed to the correct amount. Basically, you'll just hold down this plus button, and after you get the right measurement, so right now it's at PSI 00, that's pretty much just where it starts. So once you'll hit the go button, it'll actually kick on and tell you where you're actually at. But I wouldn't say that 00 is too far off, because like I said, we just got rid of a lot of air. So once you've got these settings where you need them, you're going to hit the on button, and from there it'll take it to about that PSI. Like I said, I normally try to do it more manually, so I normally set it for a little higher. So like I said, my target's about 90, so I'm gonna set it for something like 100, 110, and then just keep an eye on it until it goes. And then from there, it'll gradually increase. You'll be able to see what pressure you're looking at as it increases. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. I will say at this point, you might want to lower your volume if you're listening to this on headphones, because like I said, this does get pretty loud. So without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and get started. In 3, 2, 1. So we're getting pretty close, so I'm gonna try to show you what it looks like when you take that out. So like I said, you want to make that as quickly as you can, because the longer that thing is still attached but disengaged, even though it's still pumping air, it's going to take out more air than it'll ever pump in. Just because you're in a much more pressurized environment than what it's going to try to push into that tire. So that is effectively the process. From here, you're going to put the cap back on. As a test, I also like to just sort of push down on that wheel. It should be a lot firmer than when you started, and that's certainly the case for me. I'm testing the wheel right now with my hand. Much less play there, so it's ready to go. Like I said, this is not the simplest process, I suppose. It's a lot easier once you get the hang of it. It's certainly a lot easier than changing tires, but that is effectively how to change, or how to put air into your tires after they get too low. And again, the reason this is important is because the more surface area your tire comes in contact with essentially creates more drag. Not to mention, especially when it's balding, that'll decrease friction. So essentially what that means is that it takes a lot more effort for the same distance traveled. So at this point, this should move a lot easier because the tires are aired up. They're still not going to be peak because the tires, like I showed you earlier, are still pretty worn. So they'll need to be replaced relatively soon. I'll give it like another month maybe, if that. Honestly, probably less. But in any case, that's essentially how you change or fill up your tires. If you need any help with any of that, just give us a call. Our phone number is 317-349-2105. Call anytime. Send us a message anytime. Email, Facebook. We also have the ability to send messages now on our website, keeprollingmobility.com. So that is another avenue you can use. Give us a call, give us a message, something. We're here to help, and we're happy to do it. Keep rolling, everybody. So case in point on how it works a lot better. I'm not pushing right now, but I'm still moving. If I didn't put air in that tire, sorry, I got stopped by my grill. But if I hadn't put air in my tire, I wouldn't have made it this far if I didn't push. So right now I'm moving 4 or 5 times further than I would had I not aired up my tires without pushing. So in other words, the term I like to use is glide. So it glides a lot easier.